This is the story of the girl who took it too far. On a rooftop with no rails. She hit record on the rooftop. Just one more dance for her feed. She'd done this before, but today, it felt more serious. She didn't love the first take, so she tried again. She moved with confidence, never once glancing down. A sudden gust broke her focus, but she kept going. One wrong step, and she was gone. The rooftop stayed quiet. The phone kept filming. People looked up, but the rooftop told them nothing. Her video spread fast, shared, stitched, replayed. They left her photo and a candle, right where it happened. Camilla and her friends arrived for the final destination screening, not knowing how close fiction would mirror reality. The theater's ceiling, long neglected, showed signs no one noticed. She chose a new seat, uneasy about the structure overhead. A piece of plaster landed in her popcorn, but no one else looked up. In the booth, the projectionist saw the ceiling cam fail but got no response. Then, during a quiet scene, the ceiling cracked, and Camilla lunged to save her friend. Chaos followed as concrete crashed into the rows. Outside, Camilla sat in shock while emergency lights painted the night. Days later, she sketched the ceiling collapse she had sensed but couldn't stop. At her next movie visit, one drip from above was enough. She turned and left. This is a story about a challenge that went horribly wrong, caught on stream from the start. The boy in black sets up the phone while the boy in red laughs beside the chip bowl. They explain the rules. One chip is ghost pepper, but they won't know which. Both eat at once. Smiles, tension, a few forced laughs. Suddenly the boy in black starts choking while the boy in red freezes in panic. The boy in red runs to the door, but it's locked. They said it that way. The room is still. The phone keeps streaming, but no one moves. The stream ends, but the last image of the boy in black gets replayed. Other creators start mimicking the video, laughing, tagging it as a trend. Back at school, the boy in red watches it all, frame by frame. He didn't know war was over 30 years ago. In 1945, deep in the jungle, he received secret orders and vanished. 5 years later, he found a leaflet claiming Japan surrendered, but crushed it in disbelief. 10 years later, he stood alone at a comrade's grave, boots sunk in moss. 15 years later, he hid beneath leaves as a plane dropped more leaflets. 20 years later, he laid rusted traps in silence, still on alert. 25 years later, he knelt at a bamboo grave, marked by loss. 28 years later, he ran into the trees with stolen fruit in hand. In 1974, an explorer appeared, and the soldier finally listened. Days later, he saluted his former commander. Orders fulfilled. That same year, back in Tokyo, he stood among crowds. Still in uniform, flag pressed to his chest. This is the story of a girl who vanished inside a wall. It began like any ordinary stream, but something felt off. A knock, soft, deliberate, echoed from behind her wall. She smiled nervously, picked up a hammer, and stood up. The first blow wasn't loud, but the wall answered back. Behind it, a hole, a void, breathing darkness. A stairwell led down, and it was waiting for her. She whispered, "If I don't come back," and vanished inside. Her room stayed still. Her stream kept running. At 3:17 a.m., the lights flickered, but no one came out. By morning, the wall was perfect, like she was never there. And now, room 204 waits for the next one. This is the story of a video that started like any other, but went horribly wrong. She climbed into the sky like she had so many times before, phone ready in her pocket. She hit record, smiled at the lens, and welcomed her viewers to another day in the clouds. Down below, people watched in awe. Her videos were part of their routine. Each step she took upward seemed normal, even graceful. She turned the camera to the skyline, capturing a moment she never planned to be her last. As the wind picked up, she steadied herself with one hand, but then, just one step slipped, and her balance faltered. Workers on the ground heard the crash, and looked up too late. And now, all that's left is a final frame paused on a screen. One more clip she never got to finish. Follow for more. She didn't know the stream would be her last. She went live at 3 p.m., just like she had all week. The first hour flew by, smiles steady and sales quick. 2 hours in, her voice began to wear thin. By hour 3, her eyes drooped, but she kept holding close up. She pushed through hour 4, apologizing between breaths. Hour 5 was slower. Her hands trembled as she folded. At 6 hours in, her speech began to blur. Then, mid-sentence, her knees gave out. Off camera, but live. The phone kept recording, but she never came back. News broke the next morning that she suffered a stroke due to exhaustion. This is the story about a mysterious dancing plague and how one woman couldn't stop moving. Soon, others joined her, laughing at first, then sweating, but never stopping. Physicians came, but they couldn't explain the rhythm that ruled their bodies. The town added musicians, hoping the music would somehow cure them. But by day's end, feet bled and bodies fell. Yet still, she danced. Even the church couldn't stop her. She danced between prayers and pews. By night, the streets filled with shadows that moved until dawn. She collapsed, rose again, and spun through the pain like she was cursed. Then one day, just silence. No steps, no song, only emptiness. Centuries later, her dance still echoes. No cause, no cure, no end. Follow for more. This is the story about a man who farted and burned his whole house. He thought recovery would be simple. Just rest, breathe, and wait. The doctor warned him about flames near oxygen, but not about gas. At home, the chair felt familiar. So did the quiet flicker of a candle. Beans from the microwave, a full stomach, and no second thoughts. He let out a fart. One shift on the couch, and the fuse was lit. The candle flared. The oxygen tube sparked. His eyes went wide. Fire crawled up his gown. He slapped at it, choking on panic. Crawling low through smoke, he reached for the phone with shaking hands. Firefighters arrived, wrapping foil around what was left. The headline blamed the fire, but it all started with a fart. His classmates never knew what was coming. He started his day like usual, logging into class from his bedroom. On screen, familiar faces appeared, but he barely moved. His posture sank lower as minutes passed, his hands covering his face. Then, without warning, his camera turned on, and he stood silently behind his chair. He stared forward, expression unreadable, while everyone else kept talking. He began pacing, slow and tense, gripping the chair like it grounded him. Then he stopped, completely still, holding something in his hand. The screen went dark. Moments later, it became clear. The student had taken his own life during the call. Behind every screen is someone who might be struggling. Check in, speak up, and remind them they're not alone. He thought the apartment next door was empty, until ballet music started playing late at night. Through the peephole, he saw a ballerina dancing slowly in the dark. Each night, she got closer, her movements stiff, her dress decayed. The building super said the unit had been vacant for 6 years. One night, the peephole turned solid red, glowing like a wound. He found a photo online. She'd died slumped at the door, eyes burst from hanging. Then he noticed. Her body was facing the peephole. She'd been staring at him all along. He stumbled backward as soft knocks tapped from the peephole, and then he realized the ballerina is outside his room. He wanted a viral haircut. What he got was blood, panic, and a drone in the ocean. On a quiet beach, a vlogger set up a folding chair, a phone on a tripod, and a drone with scissors taped underneath. He tapped record, smiled, and pointed to the sky, explaining his DIY haircut plan. At first it worked, snipping away strands as the drone hovered steadily overhead. Then the signal dropped, his screen froze, and the drone began to drift. It suddenly spun out, forcing him to duck with his hands over his head. In a flash, the drone clipped his ear. He yelled and collapsed into the sand. Crawling away in pain, he watched the drone sputter and crash into the sea. Minutes later, he sat dazed in his chair, holding a bag of ice to his ear, and in the final shot, he lay back in the sand, gave a sarcastic thumbs up, and let the camera roll. She sets up her camera, laughing that she'll catch herself sleepwalking. She lies down to rest, unaware something else is awake. For hours, her body is still, but not alone. At 3:04 a.m., another version of her slowly sits up. It stands and watches, like it's trying to remember being her. Then it walks toward the camera, silent, eyes fixed forward. It leans in too close, like it knows you're watching. The screen flickers, the lights twitch, the clock stops. By morning, she rewinds and finds herself still staring. A missing man was discovered 10 years later, just behind the freezer. Investigators believe he screamed for help, but no one heard him. Reports say he climbed onto the freezer during a break, possibly to hide. He slipped and fell into an 18-inch gap between the freezer and the wall. Trapped upright, he was unable to move or call for help effectively. The constant noise from the freezers masked any signs of distress. His parents filed a missing persons report the day after he disappeared. The grocery store continued operating for years, unaware of his body. No employees suspected anything. The freezer was never moved. His remains were found in 2019 during demolition of the closed store. After a decade of searching, he was never missing, just unseen.